Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Can the British Virgin Islands follow up the historic victory from the last international break in September as they take on Dominica and then 3 days later the Turks and Caicos Islands again? Tom, we're now talking CONCACAF Nations League. We're talking League C, Group C, and a nation quite selfishly, really, that we've covered, selfishly for myself, that we've covered quite a bit on the channel. The British Virgin Islands moved up a place in the rankings to 205th, but still very, very, very close to the bottom. I'm a bit of a fanboy. It's been well documented. They won last time out, and they've got two enormous games coming up. Where do we want to start by unpacking this one, mate?
Let's start with their famous win, which they obviously cheated for, being a Turks and Caicos Islands fan myself. I say that like we didn't get the worst penalty decision I've ever seen. Fantastic. This result, if you've been following the British Virgin Islands for a while, if you've been following Minnow Nation football for a while, this result wouldn't have come as an enormous shock. We're talking about a very good side for a side in the 200 club. Yes, a side we talk about a lot, but we talk about San Marino a lot. We talk about a lot of these teams because they are, on paper, the worst teams in the world. And that's what it's all about. And we have the chance to look at a side that won 3-1, deservedly so, got 3 points on the board. They've got this double header, games 2 and 3. They play Dominica, 1-8-2 in the FIFA World Rankings, the best side in the group on paper. A side that also beat the Turks and Caicos Islands. That result 3-0, could have been anything. And if they can get a result on the Friday game against Dominica, they can put themselves potentially in a position for promotion. And if we sort of zoom out from just BVI for a second, you're talking about a team in 205 potentially being in Nations League B, alongside sides as high as the 130s, maybe even higher. I don't know who the highest ranked side is in League B. That would be enormous. If you look at the sides in the past that have been promoted from League C, it's about right. You know, these are good sides. And even Dominica getting promoted would be pretty good. But, I mean, there are only two sides ranked worse than BVI in the world. That is Anguilla and San Marino. It's going to be tough for them. Part of what makes it tougher is the realization that Dominica will beat Turks and Caicos Islands second time around as well. And so, therefore, it comes down to this Friday game. It does. And goal difference a little bit, you know, because if BVI were to manage to get 2 draws against Dominica, which would be great results, they could be let down by that 3-1 against the Turks and Caicos Islands, or even whatever the result is in the second game. Because Dominica could, and I watched the first game, so I say this with some level of knowledge, Dominica could beat Turks and Caicos Islands probably about 6 or 7-0 at this point in time. And that could be the undoing of the British Virgin Islands. But ultimately, the first step, the most important step, can they beat Dominica?
Yeah, just to add some context or some additional context around that. So if anyone's missed any of the bits and bobs that we've shared on Twitter, X, or on YouTube. So BVI's victory against Turks and Caicos Islands back in September, that 3-1 victory that Tom alluded to, was their first ever CONCACAF Nations League victory. This is only the third campaign, but it was their first win in the CONCACAF Nations League. It was their first win of any kind for 11 years, and it was their first non-friendly victory for over 19 years. So almost 2 decades, basically, without a non-friendly win. Interestingly, now, just ahead of this match, you know, I like my stats, mate. If they win this match against Dominica, it'll be the first time that they've won back-to-back games since the preliminary round of qualification for the 1999 Caribbean Cup. Now, basically, they got drawn into a preliminary qualification round where they were in a group with themselves, Montserrat, and Anguilla. Anguilla withdrew, meaning that the group was essentially just them and Montserrat, and the winner of basically what was two games would go through. So they beat them 3-0 and 3-1. back-to-back victories to then progress to what was the main qualification group for the 1999 Caribbean Cup, where they exited at that stage. So this was to be the first time since then that they would have won back-to-back games, and then it would be only the second time in the nation's footballing history that they would have won back-to-back games. Now, can they beat Dominica? Is a question that we're going to find, stating the obvious here, we're going to find the answer to. I think they can, because I think that Dominica, whilst they're probably a better team than the BVI, I think they're not the same Dominica team of 7 to 8 years ago. I actually looked at their squad before hopping on this, and I didn't recognise any of the names, which I used to back in sort of 2015 to 2018. So I think they can get the win. And I think they can continue to create more history. I just want to pick off, mate, actually, something that you might not know, because you mentioned how goal difference would be a key. Now, would be a key about BVI finishing top and then potentially as a team ranked 205th getting promoted into League B. Draws wouldn't be a bad thing, because across the 3 League C groups, the best performing second place team also gets promoted. So if they were to, let's say, draw one game and maybe lose one game to Dominica, beat TCA both times, they'd finish on 7 points. There's a very, very high chance that would still be enough for them to get promoted. So, mate, we are. There is potential here, mate, for a BVI promotion.
There is, and now you say that, there's even better chance. I mean, it's upsetting that the Turks and Caicos Islands could be the enabler of this by losing both games to them. But if you look at the other groups, the US Virgin Islands and the Cayman Islands in League C Group B, they've already drawn with each other. Not beneficial for either side in many ways. And in League C Group A, French St. Martin, Bonaire, and Anguilla, Bonaire could, despite losing to St. Martin, could also get 6 points out of Anguilla. So it's going to be close. I think realistically, it's going to be between Bonaire and BVI. And that's why these games against Dominica are so critical, because any points that they can get against the top place side, any points that they can theoretically get over Bonaire are going to be absolutely huge for them. I think that BVI as a team are better than Bonaire. I think that BVI as a team are better than a lot of teams in League C at the moment. I think they're probably the best in this period for them, which hasn't been successful, but the success may be coming, is potentially the best BVI team that there's ever been. Now, I say that acknowledging that a lot of teams are technically the best they've ever been because of everything. You know, you mentioned Montserrat there, which they did the double over in the late 90s. Montserrat are now streets ahead of that side that played at that point in time because of eligibility, etc. But BVI have really tapped into players based in the UK, players that can therefore go through the English football pyramid and gain experience and quality from that. And that showed in the game against the Turks and Caicos Islands, which they dominated, and it could have been more. It's about whether or not they can use this peak that they're in to get a result against what I agree is a slightly worse Dominica than 4 or 5 years ago. Still a good side, but slightly worse. They played each other. I can't remember when it was. FIFA 2014 World Cup qualification, maybe all that time ago, or in and around that time. And Dominica was streets ahead. You know, that was when you had Andy Davis and Trevor Peters and players like that playing for the British Virgin Islands. And if you look at it now, this current BVI team would probably beat any other BVI team throughout history. So can they capitalise on that and make that statement and promotion to League B, which if you look at, you know, you've got Antigua and Barbuda, Guyana, Montserrat, Nicaragua. It's
different ball game up there. It's a different ball game, but the experience that you get from playing that is potentially game changing. My question, or sort of my sort of final point that I'm going to throw out there to you and to those watching, if you are watching, thank you so much. Do drop a like on the video; it massively helps us out. Is if they win the games, or by whatever means secure promotion to League B, would it be one of the greatest achievements for one of the lowest ranked teams ever? Or are there other instances of a really, really low-ranked team qualifying for maybe not as low-ranked, but qualifying for a major tournament? Gambia 150 qualifying for AFCON, for example. Now, I'm throwing that out there. I'm not expecting you to give me an answer now, but I'm for you watching, throw us down a comment, an example, in your opinion. What is the greatest footballing achievement by an international team based off of their low ranking? For me, British Virgin Islands, as a 205th ranked nation on the planet, securing promotion to CONCACAF Nations League B would certainly be up there. Thoughts?
For me, I have to agree. Definitely the best achievement for a side outside the top 200. Definitely.
Yeah.
Not even close. I think that the best, if you're sort of going to past 130 or something like that, I think that the Gambia one being 150 is probably the best. I don't know if there's anyone around the sort of 180 mark that has something where they could arguably go a bit better. I don't really count New Zealand if they make the World Cup.
Yeah.
I don't really count that despite rankings because they're streets ahead of. They're always going to get to the CONCACAF playoff.
What were Iceland when they made their debut at the Euros? That was quite an impressive story, wasn't it?
Yeah, but way higher. You're talking about a side in 205. They were probably 100 odd. It's 100 places better. BVI would then put themselves in Gold Cup qualification.
Yeah.
Now they wouldn't get there. And of course, if they get promoted to League B, I think they'd probably lose every game as well. But listen, that's not a dig. Look at Saint Martin. They're in League B Group A. They're probably going to lose every game. But it's great experience for them. They get to play 6 games. If you're in League C, they've changed it now. You only get to play 4.
Yeah.
Turks and Caicos Islands have only got 2 games left. They played 2, lost 2. Last thing, they got BVI in October. Then they've only got 1 more game.
Yeah.
It's nowhere near as good. So I think it would be a great achievement. But as Ryan says, drop something down in the comments. What is the greatest achievement by a footballing minnow? Where were they ranked? What did they achieve? And would this BVI potential promotion to Nations League B be better than that? And of course, your predictions for this game itself. Can BVI make history? Can they get promoted? Can they beat Dominica? That is all from us. We'll see you next time.